Hello, everybody, and welcome to the We're So Young podcast. This is a super exciting podcast episode because we are doing a crossover with the Ya Boys Talkin', and we have Josh, Frank, and Maximo. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Yo, what's good?
Hello.
Oh, so people know my voice. This is Josh, Jean Baptiste,
Frank Hernandez.
And this is Maximo Santana.
and our fourth person, Steve Delvantina, is not here, but he would have said, "Yo."
He's enjoying some good old times in Nicaragua right now.
Yeah, as Josh put it before, he's in the jungle. Which is
Apparently.
So
It's just him with a machete, just like clearing fields. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the podcast. What do you guys do in your podcast?
So we are a podcast, as we like to dub it, called a podcast centering around nonsensical improvement, where each week we not only talk about bettering ourselves, we talk about how we can help you better yourself by hearing us better ourselves. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's kind of meta.
Yeah, like what we do is we talk about how we are improving our own lives to give other people ideas as to how they can improve their lives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the four of us have known each other for a long time, and we came up with this concept called STTT.
Straight to the top.
Straight to the top. Max, why don't you explain to her what straight to the top means?
Straight to the top is all about taking the direct steps to get to your goals. Not taking any side streets, no missions on the side, no detours, no shortcuts. You're doing what you got to do to make your life happen. That's
It's
what
like if
straight
you
to the
open
step.
up Waze and you put in your goal in there, and it gives you the direct path
Yeah, that's
to
exactly.
take you to it.
Yes.
Oh man.
And
Waze-
sometimes your
Waze has
GPS will
let
go
me
out,
down, though.
you know?
I gotta
Say that
say,
again?
Waze has let me down recently. So.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a lot of left turns
Different
sometimes.
turns.
Oh yeah, like
But
the
that's
journey.
but that's life.
The journey to the top is full of twists and turns, you know? Like just because you're trying to go straight
Bad
to your goals.
service. Sometimes you don't know where to go. You run out of money to
Yeah.
pay your bill. A lot can go on.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the
And-
important thing is that you always try every time Waze messes up. You recalibrate. Maybe you switch to Google Maps
Recalibrate.
or Apple. You know, you gotta switch it up sometimes, right? That's what life is like, right?
Maybe
So
you get out of the car, you go do some walking.
pull up the
Uh-huh.
compass. Like you gotta do it all sometimes. Yeah.
Look at find the direction from the sun.
Yeah.
And work there. But that's why I like doing the podcast and how it's gone because, obviously our whole thing is straight to the top, but we've done at about this point about 16, 17 episodes. And what we find really clearly is that sometimes, things can get a bit rough. Sometimes there's a number of weeks we're just staring at banjos, Sometimes there's a week where you're buying a little bit too much Uber Eats. Sometimes a couple of weeks where you try to math your way out of a good situation. So, we track our excuses, we track our successes, we track our failures, and, to try to give full encompassing pictures of what it's like to fight for your goals.
It's a weekly accountability checkup.
Yeah,
And-
I think
yeah.
that's what I love about it. It's the fact that it's like it's keeping you accountable. Like I can, like the We're So Young podcast definitely keeps me accountable. But I only do it twice a month. Like I'm always
Right.
like, well, I do multiple episodes and I kind of just like
Roll them out. Yeah.
roll them out. But the fact that it's like, okay, well, at midnight the night before the 15th, I have to, stay up and make sure that it like downloads so that it is uploaded by 7 a.m.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I have my occasional co-host Little Pickles, my
Oh,
dog.
pickles.
Yeah.
So if you hear some barking, everyone, that is my dog. Heard in episode 3 as well.
Hashtag totes cute, by the way.
We have Steve's cat Elle make some guest appearances on our podcast as well.
Just random meows throughout the
so-
show.
Oh, I have a
No.
cat too, but he's pretty easygoing. He's pretty
Nice.
easygoing. Okay, so it's keeping you guys accountable. What
Yeah.
is the top for you guys individually?
Ooh.
What
Ooh.
exactly is this journey that you guys are trying to get to?
What is our collective tops?
How do we do 17 episodes and never like address?
That's true. That's actually
Yeah, how come we never talked about that. This is now we're caught off guard.
Well, 'cause
Exclusive.
Now you guys
Well,
are getting
here-
interviewed about the podcast.
Here,
so it's
Yeah.
okay.
here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. What I we all have collective tops for the show, which are our goals. So I think the concept of a top, it's ephemeral. Like, it's not a concrete thing.
Yeah.
However, with the show, we show the audience that the top can change. So for us, my top right now is achieving all of the challenges that these guys have given me.
Yeah. Also, we do have like a prize that we get, which is like our current top right now is our high school reunion is in like 6 weeks. So we all want to, if we fulfill all of our promises and we complete all of our challenges, we're gonna
Wait. What do we get if we don't?
Oh
succeed?
yeah, let's first talk about what happens if we don't. So this
Wait,
podcast
before
is
we even
also.
talk about that, we should talk about the framework of the show, because I don't.
All right, we got a lot
So
of prerequisites
let's
to
dial
work
it back
through.
Yes, a lot of So your listeners aren't confused.
Okay.
Y'all Boys Talkin' is a weekly checkup. Max, Steve, and I and Frank have all given each other 3 challenges. We like to say they're New Year's resolutions, but challenges sounds cooler. And over the course of the podcast, you will witness us on a weekly basis going up and down and failing and succeeding at those said challenges.
Okay.
So to answer the question about the top, for the
But-
show, the top is achieving those goals.
Yeah, and
to add some
our 10-year
stakes-
high school reunion is coming up, and we have to complete all 12 challenges, 3 each. If we don't succeed in all those challenges, we have to give a dissertation to our fellow alumni of how we failed ourselves and each other. So we have to write a speech about how we failed to these people we haven't seen for 10 years.
But if we succeed in them,
But
Yeah, if we make
if we
it.
succeed, we'll be showing up to this reunion in a Tesla, blasting.
various
Big
rap
facts.
songs that promote success.
Yeah, just successful rap songs. We're out here to flex.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the framework
That's-
of the show.
All
So
right.
the top
What
for
are
us
some of
is
the
the goals.
challenges?
What are some of the challenges?
Yeah.
So Max challenged me to make music, and I basically have to come out with a mixtape. Steve challenged me to rein in my financial responsibility and maintain a budget. And Frank has challenged me to keeping a consistent workout schedule.
Okay. Okay.
Just a
What
bunch of
about you,
easy
Frank?
stuff, you know?
Just
Yeah.
super.
Softballs.
Yeah.
But Max just
Man,
gets
I
a
need
little.
to reevaluate my life right now.
Well, that's why we're doing this, so we can reevaluate all our lives. My challenges, Josh challenged me to see a therapist. I also have to write the first 60 pages of my great American novel. That's what Frank asked me to do. And Steve asked me to get 3 people signed up to a nonprofit organization that I'm trying to start. So those are the 3 things I have to do before this reunion. And if we do it, then we get into a fancy car.
I mean,
And Frank,
but
what do
the
you,
thing
what
is
do you
we
got?
we all have to succeed on this.
Yeah.
Because my 3 challenges are to maintain a consistent meditation regimen, which Josh gave me, to try the no S diet, which is no snacks, no sweets, no seconds, for 4 weeks, which was given to me by Steve. And the last one from Max was to speak up more at work concerning social issues, because
racial issues.
I mean, yeah, like I'm just one of the few people of color at my office, and sometimes things can get a little complicated. And week to week, I try to decipher like what works and what doesn't at my office and just in the world.
Yeah,
about social
as long as
issues.
you don't go on a racial tirade, Frank, I think you win.
So
that
as long as I
challenge.
don't go on a racial tirade, I think it works out really well. And also avoiding others' racial tirades, I feel.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah,
you guys
that's
doing?
the framework.
How are you guys doing?
Well, after we record this, we're gonna record our podcast to talk about how we're doing.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can
Okay.
so you can check us out at y'allboystalkin.com every week to see how we're doing. By the time this podcast comes out, there's only going to be a couple weeks left until our reunion, so you can definitely check out our follies and our.
But,
Yeah.
but I will say this:
Zayden's.
we have had some successes. Spoiler alert: Max at one point ends up seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
You
And-
know,
And I wouldn't have done that without the podcast for sure. Like that one, it kept me accountable for that. And I mean, it took me literally 13 weeks to like,
His nickname is 13 Week
13
Max.
week max.
yeah. So through those first 12, 13 weeks, it was a lot of me making excuses. And you can hear every single excuse I made. You can hear all 12 of them.
Episode by episode
Yeah.
by episode.
Until
you fucking did
this person finally turns it around and is like, maybe I should do this, and then actually starts doing it. So yeah, I think it's great because, you know, the how you're doing question, the answer is just like real life, right? So like some days I'm winning and some days I'm losing real
Some
hard.
weeks you're winning.
Some weeks, yeah.
So so it's hard. It's been when you guys started the podcast to your reunion, how many weeks was it? Like how many weeks?
We started at the top of the year, so about 15 weeks so far. 17 weeks?
Yeah, but
So
total, by
17
the
weeks
time
so
you
far.
get
So
to
we
the-
started in February and the reunion is in July,
June, well, late June.
late June. Oh,
At
yep.
the end of June.
Yeah, so that's like 4 months
Okay.
that we had from the beginning to the end
So
to do all this.
what's the like ratio of I'm succeeding versus I didn't meditate this morning?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well,
like, what? How are you guys gonna like
Yeah.
really establish that? You know,
Yeah.
not saying
Well,
that
right
you
now-
guys aren't doing all these things every day, but it took
Yeah.
Maximo 13 weeks to get to the therapist. So like, what's
Yes. True.
what's the ratio of like trying to hold
Successes
yourself-
over losses, like right now? What's the scoreboard? Or you're asking what the scoreboard is?
Yeah.
I think it depends on the challenge, because there's some challenges that I think we're knocking out a lot easier than others. Like Max took a long time to get to his therapist, and we made a huge deal of it on the podcast. Myself, I have a really easy time meditating. So there's a point where I have like a 76-day streak of meditation, and that one was incredibly easy for me to do. The one that took me the longest was to try the no S diet. Dieting for me has always been a very incredibly difficult process. So there are some weeks where I eat super clean, I work out 4 days a week, and at the end of the week I feel amazing. I'm like, guys, I'm killing it, what's going on? But there's also a number of weeks like, guys, immediately after the podcast I bought Uber Eats and a bunch of McDonald's. Yo, I had another DiGiorno tonight. Like, okay, so I was thinking about because it's paying $28 for like some sushi to get delivered to your house. It's not really great investment strategies on there. And I know Josh has actually dealt with a bit of Uber Eats
we also
issues.
double as a anti-Uber Eats propaganda.
We're high key very anti Uber Eats.
Yeah.
And not because we're boycotting it or anything. It's just we have fallen victim to their very persuasive ways.
That's who I am with Postmates. It's
There you go. Yeah. And then we also kind of realized, like, you know, no one's goals are advanced by using Uber Eats. No one's getting closer to
Nope.
and at no point is anyone making like, let me make a productive choice right now. Uber Eats, right? Like that's not
Well, what if you're
happening.
hosting a party and you need a lot of chicken wings?
Then
Okay.
you should not be using Uber Eats.
to get a Taco Bell 12-pack, that's what commercials say is what you need at that time.
Ew,
Okay?
no.
Also, if you were to order Uber Eats for your party, if you were catering through Uber Eats,
Yeah.
that would cost like
Did you forget about this party
$6,000.
you're throwing? Like, what is happening? Like, I would argue that's still not a productive choice.
If a
Yeah, also,
party-
you're
if a
really
party
bad at
just
throwing
sprung up on
parties.
me, like a Pokemon. It just sprung up on me and I had to.
So you open the door, like 60 people come in. Like,
yes,
whoa, whoa,
I just
whoa.
order a bunch of Uber Eats.
Wait, so all these people are coming in expecting to eat. And all these people are just like, Josh, I am hungry. Like it's just like fucking like monsters. Like,
Well,
okay.
you never know. Life is very strange. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But overall, I think we're doing pretty well. And in general, like, certainly we want to accomplish all these goals and show up in the Tesla. But at the same time, I think more so than anything, we're trying to show people that even when you make it is because you did more failing than you did succeeding.
Yeah.
And that's what people like don't have a great handle on a lot, is that they just, you know, we like to broadcast all of our successes, especially in the advent of social media. We only are showing people the highlights of our lives, and you have this valley where no one is allowed to kind of show their lowlights without looking weird or like they're oversharing on particular social networks. So it's like we have to like have a medium where we can say, hey guys, I messed up here. Hey, I missed on this. And hey, I totally forgot about that. since there's really no place where you can actually say that and it fits and it like makes sense.
Guys, it's so refreshing. I talk about it a lot in my podcast, how like, yeah, like social media, I feel like it's so great, especially if you're like an artist or something, to kind of promote yourself, but that is just such a facade, you know? It's not.
Yeah.
It's like you look my Instagram, I look so cool.
Right.
And I mentioned it.
Cool Instagram. I will say that.
But if you I've said it on the podcast before. I'm like, I tend to post when I feel the worst about myself.
Oh man.
To just be like, I'm fine. I'm okay. This is me.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, it's
That's
such
real.
a fake, and it's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for your mental health. And
Yeah,
we're living
and
in a
we're
world
not
where
gonna-
like everything is
Yeah.
like.
We're not gonna quite know exactly like the impact this is having on us for a number of years, or really now that we see like the first kids that were born in like the year 2000 and are now coming to be adults and kind of were raised with it, like high speed internet, like on mobile networks and mobile devices all around them, and seeing how they're growing up differently than we were when we kind of just had to learn what these things are. We're kind of starting to see the effects of that. And the science is still a little bit iffy on it, but people haven't seen a generation with this super high rates of anxiety or depression in a long time. So a lot of people think that might be due to the idea that, having so much access to social media is allowing kids to compare themselves to people that they normally wouldn't be comparing themselves with. And of course, the accounts that rise to the top are just the most beautiful, most talented, most, just
We want to
outlier
make
peoples.
failure cool.
There
We
you
want
go.
that shit to be
Because it's normal.
being human is
Yeah.
way cooler than being perfect all the time.
Yeah, and it's not just normal; it's the it's more common than being exceptional is being a
Exactly.
failure. And what the exceptional people
numbers.
have most in common is that they did more failure than the normal person. too.
Facts.
We want to show people that we are most exceptional in our ability to fail, and overall, that's what makes us exceptional.
Well, I think I have that down for this year. I have failed way more than I have.
That's step
succeeded.
one. That's so good.
Well, actually, Diana, we were interested in having you on an upcoming episode of Y'all Boys Talking. And in order to set all of this up, what is something that you would like to work on over the next week? Because we'll record it next week. That we can check in on with you next week, that you want to get better, that you want to be like, I did this for a full week.
We call that a micro challenge.
Micro challenges. It's not a full-on
ready.
challenge,
There's
a micro
so many
challenge.
things. I literally am going through like another really life transit. Like this week was rough for me, and I was like, I need to change my ways. I need to just kind of
Hey. Oh,
re-hone.
okay.
Yeah.
So is there a habit that you want to like instill within the next?
Or get rid of.
Yeah, no, I used to be really, really good at waking up early and going to the gym and just doing routine, because I work like 12-hour days. So if I don't do things for myself in the morning, they just don't get done. Like if I
Right.
don't work out, if I don't write, I'm writing a web series right now, and it's just like kind of took a whole standstill for the last like 6 months. And so it's just like I kind of want to just give myself the challenge to wake up every day this week at 5 a.m.
Okay.
and be productive, whether it's go to the gym or do some writing in the morning.
Okay.
Wake
Or
Waking
I
up
could do
early.
both, maybe.
Yeah. Hey, start with waking up early, and then just slowly but surely integrate those habits in there.
Go from there.
I think something we learned a lot in our, follies is that we'll have this grand idea of this person we want to be, right? Like Frank wants to be a person that shows up to work, challenges people socially, he meditates, and he's got a great diet. Like certainly day 2 of the podcast, he wasn't like waking up and then had the whole diet down packed and was challenging people and was meditating, right? Like he had to slowly integrate all those habits until he became that person one day, right? So yeah, just think about that too. Like it's okay to just do one of those on Monday, and then another one on Tuesday, and then another one on Wednesday, and then hopefully by Thursday maybe you'll have all of them down.
All right. I mean, here's
And
hoping. Here's hoping.
But yeah, so yeah, we'll check in with you next week. But yeah, the whole idea of having this vulnerability and having this accountability between each other, because we're our own worst enemies when giving ourselves, specific goals. We'll let ourselves down like a million times over and over and over again. And unless there's someone else telling you like, hey, Josh, you need to stop staring at that banjo and start taking your lessons. Sometimes it's tough. Or like 2 weeks ago, like my uncle just straight up called me fat. And I was like, okay, I should probably.
They hadn't seen each other in a while.
We haven't seen each other in a couple years. And that was like, after saying, hi, Frank, his next thing was just like, you got fat? I was just like, okay, it's
a sign.
This is the time that I need to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that it's awesome that like you guys have this support system within each other, because it is very easy to just be like, okay, I'm gonna do this and just not.
Yeah.
Another element that I feel like we also found through the show is we have a segment called STTT of the Week, which is a person, place, or thing that has exemplified STTT-ness. And it's also given us an opportunity to plug into the real world just to see, like, who's really doing what out there. So that's STT of the Week. And we also have a segment called Rosebud Thorn, where we take a moment to give gratitude to the week. So it's all about counting your steps, counting your blessings, and counting successes of the world.
Yeah, and it kind of like balances us out because, again, sometimes our challenge checkups sound like it's possible that we would all have a bad week and none of us really got a lot done. And we're just kind of talking about all these things that got in our way. So before we do that, in case we do have a bad challenged week, we'll like highlight some good news in the world, which is our like STT of the week, right? Somebody outside of our group that did something amazing that was them going straight to their top, right? So we'll highlight somebody that did something cool. And then at the end, we have to like give gratitude as well. So like Rosebud Thorn, we always have to pick things that happened in our week that were positive. Even if I failed at everything all week, even if I ordered $700 of Uber Eats for these 60 people that showed up unannounced in my house.
Did you hate it when that happens?
Yeah, I still have to find something good that happened that week and talk about that. And then also something good that's happening next week that I'm excited about as well.
It also makes a wonderful dinner table conversation. So next time you're at dinner, ask everyone what their rosebud thorn is. A rose is something that happened in the week that you were grateful for. Your bud is something that you're looking forward to next week. And a thorn is something that was a thorn in your side, or as we like to say, in your side.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just surrounding it with positivity, because even going outside of the podcast, like that's kind of how we became friends. We became friends because we're all fairly different people. We're all fairly different people in attitudes and our composure and things like that. But something that we all have in common is that we try and keep a positive mindset, and we're always there for each other to help each other out. And we've been doing this for 12 years. And it was Josh's idea to start the podcast because we've been doing checkups even before this.
Yeah, we had earlier archaic iterations of like our challenge checkups.
Yeah.
We used to draw webs whenever, because after a point, all the guys moved to the West Coast, and I'm the only one that stayed in Miami. So we had to reinvent ways to like keep track of each other. And in high school, we did these webs where we would draw the name of your name in the center, and you would basically give a context to all the things that are going on in your life. So it's like, all right, this is Josh, and I have my math class, and we draw little like figures. You would need like a legend to read what was going on the map, but
yep.
Yeah.
So
and then we had to like show each other what the web was and like explain it. Like you had to explain it. Like like it would be full of like these acronyms and like squiggly lines and dotted lines. You have to be like, well, the dotted line means I'm thinking about it, but I'm not doing anything about it yet. The squiggly line is like I want to, but
Sometimes the line would go to a wall. You're like, I don't want to be doing this, but then like there's another line coming out of the other line, and then you're going there anyway. Yeah. And I remember in one of my webs, I had one of Max's webs in the corner of my own web. just to explain that, like, so Max is doing this, and I just want to show how I'm doing this differently. It got really,
it got pretty
complicated.
meta. Anyway, that was the infrastructure. I mean, originally I wanted to do a pop culture podcast, but then it just slowly evolved. Like our first episode of our podcast was actually like our third episode. We had a lot of technical difficulties, primarily caused by me, that forcefully evolved the show into what it is now.
There's a whole lot of Josh making like a really terrible noise, and we're like, Josh, what is it? Josh, what is it?
I didn't press record. After like an hour and a half of talking.
How long are your episodes normally?
They range between like 40 to 50 minutes. Yeah, but it's broken up into the segments, which it makes it really swift because we have the segments to kind of keep it rolling.
So what is cool about this is that everybody's in a different room right now. Where in the world are you guys?
I am in Miami.
I'm in San Francisco.
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, I'm in Hollywood, Florida.
Hey,
Hey, Hollywood, Florida. That's like you're in California and Florida at the same time.
Just smash them together.
Not quite,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And also, like, we talked about the webs too. Like, we've had multiple iterations of us trying to keep in contact, given that we're spread out, right? We've had we have a group chat, of course. Everyone has a group chat. But before the group chat, we were running a Tumblr blog together at some point throughout college. And like, it was just, again, like basically our challenge checkup, where we were just saying like, this is what's going on in my life. Right. And especially since we all went to different colleges and universities. So we all had to introduce and then also back then it was formed as like seasons of a television show.
Oh yeah. So season 1, season 2, we all were on one show. It was initially called The Bros back in high school.
So when we're all together.
Once we all went to our different colleges, we call these all spin-offs. So then we had so mine was called the SF. So I initially moved to California first, and then everyone else came and joined in, which then became a new show called what was it? Brokeland,
yeah.
We all had our own. What was mine called? Josh's New World or something.
Oh yeah. Oh no, a whole new world.
A whole new world. When I went to New World.
Yeah, we also had a crossover where it was called Benchmarks, where Frank was a fitness instructor and I was a teacher.
Did that actually happen?
That was a show for a hot minute. Huh?
That actually happened? You guys were you were a teacher?
Oh no, I was a teacher. Frank was not a fitness instructor. He just
I wasn't a fitness instructor. I was very into fitness, but I wasn't a fitness instructor.
He was a burgeoning fitness instructor.
Yeah, there you go.
But point being, we've been apparently preparing for this for about 12 years now.
Well, that's awesome. That's
kind of happened organically, so that's like great.
That's so great. You guys have such a like positive friendship. I want to be your friend.
Yo, you gonna be our friend if you pass them challenges.
There you go. There's requirements to this friendship.
But also be our friend if you don't pass these challenges either. That's the whole idea.
I'll start off with just waking up at 5 and
perfect.
Bam.
Perfect.
And that's all you need. And if that's your cap, that's your cap. And that is what we will hold you accountable for.
If that's your top, if that's straight to your top, you're good. Mm-hmm. As long as you are pursuing your like ideal form, that is what it takes to be, I guess, to roll with us.
To roll with us.
To roll with us.
Max, we do not roll anywhere.
We don't roll. Y'all don't have the biker jackets that I sent you
I got the biker jacket coming. You guys didn't order it? You guys didn't order it?
Okay.
Oh my god, shut up. Whatever. You guys are lame-ass. You guys are dweebs. Yeah, they're fucking dweebs.
So how long has it been since you guys have all been together in one room?
Oh wow. Ooh. When we went to Japan.
Oh.
Was that the last time?
I think that was the last time.
You guys all went to Japan together?
We did.
That's so cool.
So last April,
last November, we received a frantic series of texts from Frank saying flights to Japan are $400 right now. Red alert. We need to do this. And Frank
And-
proceeded to champion that goal of making it happen. And then in April we went to Japan.
For $400.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Round trip.
They were
Yes.
absurdly
Let me
cheap,
get
so
Scott's cheap flights.
Where'd you find him, Frank?
Google Flights. Actually, if you were to get your tickets now for next April, you could probably get them for $50. I'm kidding. If you
Shut
get
up.
your tickets like pretty early, like
Yeah, it
tickets
can
around
happen.
April are very inexpensive to Japan. Like they want people to show up out there
I wanna
Yeah.
go
for
there.
the.
That's actually
So I guess
one of my like kind of long-term goals by the time I'm 30 is to go and see like go to every continent, and
Ooh.
I'm just missing Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. Antarctica's the hardest one to get to.
Oh, you trying to? Damn. Oh
we're
wow.
trying to do them all.
I'm trying to do
Oh,
all
that's-
of them. Yeah.
That is lit.
Antarctica you can get to through Chile, but it's kind of dangerous. But I'm
Kind of.
But I'm
Is it more dangerous or more kind of?
yeah. It's you just gotta go through like a really like they take it. You're on like a little ship, and they take you through this like this really narrow ice trail essentially to
Yeah.
get there. Which if you've seen Titanic, icebergs are a big issue.
Ugh.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest issue in Titanic.
I've
I
heard
feel.
of the movie. Yes.
Spoiler.
Well,
if you haven't
well,
seen it.
unfortunately, there's probably not a lot of icebergs.
Yeah. So
Aw.
so we'll see. We'll see. But I definitely Asia is my next
Mm.
like big trip. I just I did Morocco, which is in Africa, obviously.
Oh, nice.
But so I did Africa this year.
Oh, that's great. Damn.
So and I want to go back, but I want to do like South Africa. Like I want to do like literal like Cape Town, things like that. But I have a friend in Zimbabwe, so I might do
Oh,
that
that's
too.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Not a
amazing.
lot of people can say that.
I love
know,
that sentence.
I know.
I have a friend in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of when I worked on a ship last year, and there was 47 different nationalities on board working. So it was one of the
man.
coolest things to just kind of be in a confined space with so many different cultures, and just kind of having to learn what it's like, how people interact with each other. From
Yeah.
Miami, people are like, "Oh my God, hi, mwah, how are you?" Mwah, and they're just like, and I'm very touchy. I'm very, but I'm also a woman, and so that is very different for different cultures and stuff like that. So it was very interesting to just kind of see how everyone navigated in one common space.
Wow.
And in that, I have friends from like all over the world now, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. So if you wanted to go to every continent, you probably have friends. I hope you made an Antarctic friend. I don't know if
I
that
don't
was
have
possible.
Antarctic friends, but I can make
Yeah.
one.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, Antarctica seems it's the biggest stretch. But I have a friend who actually is Australian. She lives here, and she is getting married in Australia.
Oh.
Sounds like an in.
Yeah, and I
Sounds
was
like
like,
you have
and
a way.
she's having a wedding here in Miami, and then she's gonna have it in Australia. She's not engaged yet, but I know that
Oh,
one
okay.
day it's gonna happen.
Okay.
So
Has
I'm
she
just
met her
begging that
husband?
it happens before I'm 30. I'm just like, as long as you want to get married before I'm 30, which you still have, you have a little bit over 4 years, like you're okay.
Okay.
Figure it out, so I can go to Australia with you.
Amazing. That sounds like your long-term STTT vision
Yeah.
is you want to visit all those continents.
Yeah.
Which that's a pretty great goal.
Yeah.
No, it's great having friends in other countries. My best friend actually just moved to the UK like 3 weeks ago, and mostly I'm excited because now I have a place to stay in the UK.
Nice.
Like, just like that's great. I'm glad you're moving up in your life. You're doing that. You're out there with your wife and whatever. But you have the room for me though, right?
That's how I feel about you guys on the West Coast.
True. True.
And that's how I feel about Diana in Hollywood.
Hey,
Hollywood,
if you ever
Florida.
need a place to stay, Hollywood, Florida.
Perfect. Good looks.
Yeah, I'm right here. Right here. Here we go. So, like, tiny apartments, like the size of, like, I don't know, my thumb. With my dog and my cat, but you are always welcome, Josh.
Hey, girl, you in Hollywood, boo.
in the
So we all want to be Hollywood.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I mean,
In
talk
the-
about Rosebud Thorn. Like, I am in Hollywood, which is super far from where I like work and
Is
everything.
that your rose?
Huh?
That's your rose?
No, my rose is that I am living without any roommates. Like I can live. I can live.
That's delicious.
Yeah, it's small and it's far, but it's mine. You know.
It's your island.
It's my island, and it's like when I did move in, I was going through like a huge life, like I felt like the carpet had been just thrown from under me, and so I tried really hard to make this place feel like home, you know.
Aw.
So
Great.
Yeah.
so
You're a Cancer, right?
I am a Cancer.
Yes. So that's the hermit crab right there.
I know. And my family are home, which sucks. Like it was funny. The first 5 months that I lived here, I would joke that my dog and my cat would throw parties every day because I didn't know what my apartment looked like from the hours of 9 a.m. to about 6:30 p.m. for like the first 5 months. Like I had no idea what the light looked like in my apartment, like what, because I just was working. Like I moved, and I literally the day I moved, I started a new job, and I also worked like 4 other jobs, and it just like I just hadn't had a day off, and it wasn't until I think it was like Thanksgiving that I had Thanksgiving alone, and I was like, well, at least I'll be able to be in my apartment, and I was like, oh, it's a beautiful
In the daytime
Yeah.
and see it
Oh,
what looks like at
wow.
10:45.
That
Yeah.
slaps you in the face.
Yeah, but that sounds like a lot of changes in a row. Like you move, you start a new job, and
Oh,
then
yeah. It's been definitely the most interesting year of my life. Especially coming back from working on a ship. I did essentially 5 months on a cruise ship, and I was acting on it, but I visited 14 different countries, 27 different cities,
wow.
and I didn't go to college, and I basically lived like a college life. Like I was like, "Good morning!"
In 5 months,
Yeah.
5 months of
That's
college,
And
all
it
of
was
it.
just like I became like a real life sailor, and it's one of my favorite things actually. Like I would go back in a heartbeat, and
Wow.
but going on that trip really changed my life here back home. And so when
Yeah.
I got back from the ship, my entire life just started to shift, and not in a way that it's life. You know, you expect your life to go one way, and then all of a sudden something happens,
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything else is just like. And so, yeah, there was a lot of things that I was expecting my life to go through, and it did a completely 180. And all of a sudden, I am looking for an apartment within like I have to move out of my old apartment and like as soon as possible, and
Yeah.
I'm all of a sudden a single dog parent, which I wasn't ready for, and so it's just like a lot of things, and it's been definitely one of the hardest years as far as being an quote unquote adult.
Yeah.
But I can't help but to be kind of proud of who
Yeah.
I've become
Right.
this year, you know? Like,
I think yeah,
Right.
like at the end when it all the dust kind of settles and you kind of look back and realize like, oh my gosh, all of that just happened. Like I got off a cruise ship and then found an apartment, picked up a dog, started a new job, like doing a podcast. Like,
yeah, I started the podcast.
and you look back on it and you're like, oh my gosh, like the person I was maybe a year or two ago would not have been able to like do all this stuff.
It's
But-
like that final moment in The Fresh Prince, the last season, the last episode, where Will Smith is in the empty spot and he looks around and he turns off the lights. Is it like that, Diana?
It should be turning on the lights
Oh,
in a spot
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with
yeah,
stuff in it.
Never wrong metaphor. Never mind.
It is. I mean, sometimes I've turned off the lights at a lot of things this year.
Okay,
But,
well, yeah, that.
yeah, I think it's been a big year for me to figure out who I am as a person, who I am as an adult without other people, and I've really surprised myself with a lot. Like a big part of the podcast is to try new things, because it's really easy to stay in a comforted zone in your life. You know, like things.
Absolutely.
Things are, And then it's not till things start changing that you realize how much potential you have to like really try new things, you know what I mean, or really stick to these goals and these challenges, you know.
Yeah.
Because if not, there's the potential of spiraling downward, and that's obviously never what we want to do.
Right, and you can also spiral downward by trying to stay in the same place. And then you look around and you're like, oh my God, everybody moved up and here I am in the same place, which all of a sudden seems not as glamorous as it was way back when. So, yeah, I think when I hear you talk about all these things and all these hardships you face and how difficult it was, I think it's super important to have these conversations. And everyone has to, like, know, like, how difficult it was. It certainly wasn't maybe how you imagined it, but it was exactly what needed to happen for everything to like go down the way it needed to. And it sounds like you're very happy where you are right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks like if it happened a different way, perhaps you wouldn't have been in this position either.
And if things do ultimately go awry, you just have to find Thanos, get the Infinity Gauntlet, and snap time.
Just snap your fingers, and I think you're solid.
Super easy.
Basically, do a time heist.
But I think that's the thing. Like
Time
even
heist.
right now, I feel, like I said, like this week has been tough. Like it's been just kind of like a constant like, all right, what's gonna happen this month? But even all the hard things that have happened to me, I don't know if I would go back in time and change
Right.
it.
That's good.
You know, like I think that I'm very much a believer of like the universe is putting me right where I need to be. And
Right.
It might be really hard right now, and I might be overwhelmed, and I might feel sometimes really alone. But like, I'm here because either I need to learn something, or it's gonna take me to someplace further. You know.
And therein lies the perspective of finding all the like gifts that the universe throws at you. A lot of people think those are like obstacles are bad, or like they're like, no. Sometimes it's often the way.
Yeah. I mean, how do you learn if you stay in if you don't go through things? You know, if
Exactly.
you stay in the same constant line, there's no growth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of what we learned as well is like the power of vulnerability
Yes.
as well.
Big time.
Like, unless we come to each other with our problems and say, hey, I suck at XYZ. No one's going to really help me at that unless they know that I'm struggling with it. And maybe they'll see me struggling, but them seeing me struggling is also different than me reaching out for help too. So being vulnerable is super important, because that's how you cue others into saying like, hey, I need help. I would love it if you were to take a look at what I'm doing. And if you have any ideas, then please send them my way. Or if you have any experience with this, let me know how it was for you. Because maybe it's just supposed to suck. And if you just tell me it sucked for you as well, I'll feel a lot better about that.
Right.
But that takes
That's
two
actually-
people saying, like, this sucked for me.
That's actually one of the big parts of like why I wanted to do this podcast. Why I wanted to do Y'all Boys Talking, in the sense that there's another podcast from Hidden Brain called there's another NPR podcast called Hidden Brain, where they had an episode called The Lonely American Male, where it talks about that after men get to a certain age, they start losing their male friends, and they put all their vulnerabilities and all their issues onto their spouse or their girlfriend or their partner. Because like so this interviewer basically goes and interviews like young kids, you know, like best friends who are like 8 years old, and then like adults like in their mid 30s who just don't have anyone to talk to. There was a poll just like, if you were to be sick right now, who can you call? And like a lot of these men had nobody. They had nobody. If it wasn't their wife, it'd be nobody. So it's very difficult, particularly for men, to keep friendships after a certain time. And I've been hanging out with these guys for over a decade now. And I've made it a very important thing in my life to try and keep in contact with them as much as humanly possible, because I know the impact they've had in my life, and I'm excited to see what our lives could be like more in the future. But you have to make the effort for it, and part of it is being vulnerable, because being a man, being raised to like hold your emotions in, had only led to things getting worse for other men, and how men deal towards women as well. You know, if we don't express ourselves in the correct ways. So on this podcast, I know I've been seeing a therapist for many months. I deal with a number of mental health issues. I try and make that as clear and as upfront as I can on this podcast, because the reaction that I've gotten, the people that have come to me and told me like, "Hey, I've been going through this too. I know about this, I know about that," has been amazing. You know, we're a lot less alone than we think, and many times the only step is to just, step outside yourself for 1 second.
Yeah, I love that. It's being able to have a support system, but also know that it's okay to have them too.
Absolutely.
Big facts.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's hard. It's hard to just be like, listen, I'm going through things, and I
Yeah.
need, I don't even need you to do anything, but just to like sit with me.
Yeah, just listen to it, or just tell me like, hey, you're right, that does suck. That is a very difficult thing you're trying to do right now. And I think that's what a lot of episodes on our podcast, it's also like a very fine line too, because accountability is, knowing somebody well enough to know the difference of when it's acceptable to be like, hey, you're going through it and that sucks. Let me just let you know that I'm verifying your experience, right? I'm validating your emotions, right? But sometimes you have to be like, listen, man, you've been staring at a banjo for 4 weeks, and a mixtape ain't gonna make itself, right? So like when our friends are going through it, we have to know them well enough to be like, this is a time where I need to offer support, or this is a time where I need to like offer more like substantive encouragement to like make sure that they're doing what they need to do to get where I know they want to go at the same time.
Right.
So it's walking a fine line. And I think what I love about the podcast is we're kind of like modeling that behavior. Like if your friend is going through it and they have a lot going on, and maybe it's fine that they did look at the banjo that week. Maybe that is
Okay,
progress
listen.
for them.
Let's clarify something for Diana's listeners.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I want to know about this banjo.
I picked up the banjo and was supposed to make music with it, and every week they would check in on it. I would say, well, I looked at it. After this happened for about 4 weeks in a row, they started making jokes the fact that I always keep looking at the banjo. Eventually, spoiler alert, I picked up the fucking banjo.
He did it.
I'm sorry,
He
can I
got
curse
it.
on this podcast? I don't know if you have like a large evangelical base.
No, I for a while I would like beep people, but then the last episode I recorded, it was just like too much, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna have my first
This is it.
explicit episode on iTunes. Cool.
Bam.
You said fuck it.
Exactly. I was like, screw this.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. Okay. So spoiler alert, you did pick up the banjo.
Yes, the goal is achieved.
You just
Pardon?
because did you play it? Because you can
Yes,
look at
I
it, you can
played the
pick it
banjo.
up, but
I did ultimately play it. I used it to make music, and I then recorded it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then it kind of became like a running joke in the podcast when you're like not making a lot of progress. We kind of harken back to, you're looking
Staring
at
at the banjo.
You're looking at a banjo.
You're
here,
staring at
right?
the banjo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, which means like you're making the bare minimum level of progress by like acknowledging this thing
Like,
that you have to
I
do.
saw it in the corner.
Yeah, I did. I looked at it, right? As if like, check that off the list. I stared at it, when in reality that's
Hey,
not.
out of sight, out of mind, dog. So you gotta keep looking at it.
I guess. Yeah, that is
Right?
step one.
Step one, you gotta look at
it's
it.
so easy to put things on the show. Yeah. No, me too. I've signed up for classes at 6 a.m. and I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I see this booked class. I see it. I booked it.
It's there.
I'm gonna cancel
Yes.
it. Boom.
I
And
could go.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. It's so easy to put things on the shelf.
Yes. But also it's acknowledging that some days, sometimes, like looking at it is progress. Although most of the time it is not.
Most of the time
it's not progress.
Yeah,
not.
but
But
it's finding
again,
that balance.
Right. If, your grandma's in the hospital and you have this stuff due at school and, you have a bill due in a few days, perhaps looking at it is progress. Perhaps looking at it is the most you can do when all those things are happening, right? But of course, those things aren't happening all the time. So,
The threshold is very, very thin.
yeah.
So, we are reaching towards the end of the episode. So,
Okay.
what is something that you guys individually would tell your high school selves? Could be advice, it could be a joke.
I would tell my high school self, hey, dude, what you're doing is absolutely fine. And trust in that. And I would shake his hand, and then I'd slap him. And I'd say, don't do drugs, and I'd fly away.
I like
Incredible.
how you have the ability to fly. I just said you.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that was. I'm assuming in the world where you can talk to your 15-year-old self, you've already mastered
can also
flight
fly.
first. Yeah.
I mean, like the same mechanism that actually caused you the time heist was also.
Guys,
Yeah.
all
The
I'm
one that
saying
gave you
is,
wings.
in the future, we're going to fucking fly. So,
Oh, that's your announcement right now. Okay. I guess I would tell my high school self to stop messing around with your hair so much and just keep it one style, man. Like you don't have to. No, I'm playing.
nah, that was real. That was real.
That was-
Nah,
That was
hey,
real.
man, you
That's
tried
not-
some stuff.
That's what I would
Try
say.
to-
Like as I'm walking out, like that would be my last.
Oh,
thing.
and
So,
by
like,
the way,
yeah, just keep the hair simple, man. Don't even, yeah. But if I had to give him, if I could only spend like a minute with him, I would make sure he understands the most important things in your life are people, human beings, and the connections you have with those human beings. And if you could prioritize that, you'll be a-okay fine. If you can make sure you constantly have the right people in your life, that's better than having the best job. That's better than going to the best school. That's better than, being invited to the best party, is making sure you have the best people for you in your life.
Right.
I tell high school Max that.
And he'll be like, yeah.
I would tell high school Frank to kind of, keep doing what he's doing. I think he had a good head on his shoulder. He had a really clear idea of what he wanted to do in his future. But to not worry about, to not sweat the small stuff. Sweating the small stuff is very, very, very easy. And then, I don't know, but to a high school kid, small stuff is different. But I'll just be super vague and then also fly away. I'll be like, hey, just don't sweat the small stuff. And I'll be like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
The pineapples fly at midnight. And then just
can you
leave.
be slightly more specific? No.
Wow, you're just going to
But,
traumatize
yeah.
young Frank. Okay.
If you ever meet your past or future self, just don't talk to them. Like if you ever see someone who looks exactly like you walk up to you, just don't talk
Yeah,
to
because I
them.
feel like my life, like, I would do it because I'm like, oh man, this is one of those movie moments. I'm like, there's probably gonna be like a whole thing, a series of events that happens if I engage with this guy, and I'll be like, do I want my life to change? And I'll do it.
Okay.
We've actually time traveled before. I don't know if y'all boys remember that, but we've time traveled before.
What are you talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think we should be talking about it on the podcast right now.
I'm not sure if we can
You were gonna
bring
say
that
something, Diana?
No. What is something new that you guys have tried recently, which I know is your challenges, but technically those challenges were made a few weeks ago. So something
Right.
a
Oh,
little
true.
bit more
Yeah.
recent that you guys
Okay.
have done, something new.
Something new that we tried.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have a good one. And so I ended a relationship with something I've been sleeping with for a long time. My phone. My phone no longer sleeps in the bed with me. Like we've had a good run. We've had some good times. We've swiped and scrolled and looked at Twitter for hours. We've looked at various pictures. We've responded to DMs, but I just don't think it's good for me, Like I think we're just like two different people. It's a robot, I'm a human, and it's just causing me to stay in bed way too long. So I need to move on up in the world, so I decided to put my phone on the other side of the room when I go to sleep.
Facts.
And that's been really good.
Wow.
Like anytime I want to use my phone, I have to get out of bed. If I wanted, and I realized like how all the dumb shit that I would like to use my phone for, which is just like let me refresh Twitter again, and I'm just like, oh, but I have to get up out of bed to do all that, so I just sleep more. I sleep better. So that's one thing I've tried that's been pretty darn good.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I don't have a TV in my room. I refuse.
Nice.
I have been trying out Veep on HBO. It is a wonderfully written and acted show. It is inspiring me so much. At one point, I wanted to run for office, but that quickly dissipated. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a master at her craft.
Damn right. Damn right.
I bought a calendar 122 days ago. So that has been changing my life. Like just calendaring things, like a whiteboard calendar that's in my room. And when I have a little lunch date or I need to like work on my blog or write some pages on the book or have a meeting with somebody for the nonprofit, that all goes on the calendar, and it is way better than not putting it on my calendar is what I'm finding out. So I'm probably late to the calendar party, I admit that, but I'm glad I bought a calendar. 100.
Calendars are like fairly new, man. It's only happened like the past 1,000 years or so.
Yeah, humans are late to the calendaring party in general,
But
so I
think-
don't feel that
True.
I
bad.
think there's a huge difference between having a calendar that you have to physically write on
Yes.
and a calendar like on your phone. Like I live off of my agenda, but I do not have anything written in my calendar in my phone. Like I don't know how to use it. And I think that there's power to that. There's power into like physically writing what your duties are for the week or for the month and stuff like that. So
We're real big on analog trackers. Analog trackers is huge. I have a big checklist for a lot of my goals, like on a whiteboard, like Max, like Josh as well.
what is something new that you guys want to try?
I want to try abstaining from all of my vices for a month.
That's an ambitious goal. That might be the most ambitious goal.
The most ambitious goal.
I would
I
say.
have 0 vices.
Yeah,
Just that's it. Just throw them all out.
Yeah.
No more vices.
I want to be
Abstain.
perfect.
Abstain
Okay.
from unproductive vices.
All right, that's a lot, man.
Hey.
But go for it. I support you in your endeavor.
Hey, 100% support right here, man.
Yeah. I want to try getting into dance. Like I want to get into a hip hop dance.
Oh my God, I am so in support of this. I am in full support of this.
Yeah, I think to me, like I just need better ways to work out that are very practical. Like I can't work out. I can't just be lifting weights to lift a weight. To me, I'm just like, why am I lifting this weight? Like I get into the philosophy of like weights and stuff, and it just makes it difficult for me to continue a workout. But if like I'm dancing, or recently I started rock climbing, and like those are like skills that I sweat while I'm practicing, and then at the end I'm like, oh, I did a workout, and also I know how to do this thing. So that like keeps me doing it. So I think the next one I want to do is dance because it's a workout, and then also I gain a new skill. So that's something I want to try.
Can it be river dance?
I feel like I would have to river dance for a very long time to break a sweat and like do a workout. It needs to be like break dancing,
Whoa,
hip hop.
Don't,
Like
don't
has to be.
diminish the work that river dancers do, Max.
They don't use their upper body. I'm not diminishing that. I'm just saying I want to have a complete workout.
It's a
Yeah.
Fine.
something new that I'd like to try over the next. I like to get back into producing. So I work as a designer and video editor out here in Los Angeles, in advertising specifically. But a long time ago, y'all boys, we tried to open up a company. We tried to open up an LLC called Atom Fly Media. And it started off as like a whole digital media firm, so we're all going to have like these different aspects, and I was going to work on video production. And through that, I gained a lot of experience, like just getting people together. It's something that I felt I've always had like a skill for. When we were doing our video series back in high school, like I was very much like, guys, we need to get on this. Guys, we need to hurry up and do that. And only recently have I found like 2 good connections. I'm just like, ooh, this person can work with this person. This person can work with this person. This person can work with that. And then we can make this, and then we can that. I love it. I love it so much, and I just haven't done it in a bunch of years. You know, not that advertising isn't the best. It's great. Like I really like particularly what I do in designing now, but to get back and creating my own stuff and like bringing people together, that's just something that I freaking love. And to get right back into that is dope.
Get
It
it.
would be dope. Oh, and Max, as a former dancer, fucking like it's great. Do it. Definitely do it. I'm very excited for you to do that.
Telling you, it seems like you guys have some extra challenges now.
Yeah,
Don't
there's a lot
toss
going
that.
on. I mean,
Yeah.
but you aim for the stars and you land on the moon,
I like it.
Yeah,
Yes, you said it
that's
the right way.
quote.
Yes.
You said it the right way.
or you aim for the moon and you land
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
in New Zealand, which also isn't that bad.
Okay. I like that.
I'm okay. I'm okay with settling for New Zealand. If that must be some great shit was before that.
You have to have a lot of good engineers to make sure they shoot you in that trajectory.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for doing this crossover. This was so fun. This was so fun. So, can one of you guys tell us again where we can listen to your podcast?
At y'all boys talkin' on the handles or ybt.fm.
All right. It will also be available in the description in each of the podcast episode
Yeah.
places. And thank you guys so much.
No doubt. Thank you.
Thanks
we'll
for
be
having
checking up
us.
on your challenge next week. Stay tuned, audience, for the next
Yeah.
crossover
Yes.
We got a
episode
part 2.
exclusive.
Listen to, if you want to find out if Diana can wake up at 5 a.m. for a whole week, then you need to listen to Y'all Boys Talking.
I'm going to do more than
On-
that. I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to wake up at 5
So,
a.m. and I'm
okay.
gonna-
Okay. All right. Well, we will check it in a week.
Yeah, we'll
and
find
and
out.
Y'all listeners can enjoy us on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Y'all boys talking.
Send us a messenger pigeon. We'll listen to your smoke signals, like however you want to communicate with us. We will
Yes.
take it.
Yo, would it be crazy if we just moved exclusively to smoke signal?
Yeah, that's my next move. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, let's have that conversation off the pod. Let's consider it.
Okay.
Thanks again for listening to the We're So Young podcast. Like what you've been hearing? Help spread the word. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, and tell your friends about We're So Young. And don't forget to follow us on our socials, at We're So Young Podcast on Instagram, at We're So Young Pod on Twitter, and We're So Young Podcast on Facebook. Let's all get inspired to try new things together. That's it for now. Tune in on the 1st and the 15th of each month for new episodes. Until then, step out of your comfort zones and try new things, 'cause we're so young.